This is the brand new Traxxas X-Monster MT, and Traxxas is doing things a little bit differently with this release because they're selling this body, which is a gorgeous licensed Bigfoot F-150, and this updated X-Monster chassis with big, beefy new wheels and tires separately. This is going to allow you to buy the body you want, or take your current chassis and just add the body you want to it. As far as I know, all the bodies they're releasing are the same F-150, though some of them are Bigfoot branded and some of them aren't. This body does feel pretty decent, though to be honest with you, some of this Lexan feels fairly thin by modern standards. And down here at the sides, you can see this actually goes all the way down to about 0.68 inches. It doesn't feel flimsy, but it certainly doesn't feel that premium either. Inside, we do have a full-length roll cage with the tab in the front and the latch in the rear. We also have spots here and here to install the whip antennas for the Funko. This front tab does look pretty similar to the X-Max, though maybe a little bit longer. And this rear latch also looks similar. I'll be curious to see if this body wants to pop off like the stock X-Max bodies do. And while there is a skid plate on the tailgate and a few others in the back, there's nothing on the roof, which makes me wonder how this thing's gonna hold up to some serious bashing. In the front, we've got that licensed Ford grille, but this is all stickers, no hard parts here. The front tab hooks into the front tower, just like on the regular X-Max, and the rear tab latches onto the back, again, just like on the regular X-Max. Looking at this chassis, I see a lot of things that look very familiar, but I also see a few new things that are pretty exciting. And I'm definitely curious to see if all of these upgrades are gonna fit, or if there are gonna be any surprises. Let's dig in. The first thing that really grabbed my attention are these tires at 8.3 inches in diameter and 4.4 inches wide. They are very large. They're on these pretty cool scale-looking monster truck wheels. They have a beadlock appearance, but they aren't beadlock. As you can see, they are directional and they are belted. I'm personally not a huge fan of belted tires for bashing, but we'll see how these go. They've got a lot of mass, so they still could be good for air control. They attach to the truck using the exact same 17mm castellated nuts that we've seen for a really long time. These do have these little pips on the inside to keep them from coming loose. This is similar to serration that we see on most nuts. It is important to note that the thread on these are not standard 17mm hex thread, and they are proprietary to Traxxas. Traxxas also gives us these cool covers to go over the nuts. However, I don't think they actually included the screws that they were supposed to with these covers. I checked all the packaging, and while we do get a hex wrench for the screws, as well as some optional speed gears, we'll talk about those in a minute, some adapters for batteries, a few foam blocks, and the manual, I see no screws. But overall, I do really like these tires, and I love this classic chevron pattern. It is surprisingly versatile for how old it is. Moving on to the chassis itself, we do get really nice shiny plastic chrome bumpers in the front, as well as in the rear, and then pulling them off, we see we have a very familiar looking rear bumper, just with that chrome piece tacked onto the back of it. The wheelie bar is also identical to what we've seen before. It does run on ball bearings, though these are hard plastic wheels. The wheelie bar doubles as a carrying handle, which I think is awesome for a big vehicle. And then after removing the rear skid plate, we get our first look at a part that isn't on the original X-Max. By the way, these screws are typical Traxxas quality, hex head machine screws, and they are really nice. Moving on though, behind that skid plate, you can see we have the Traxxas HD arms, though these aren't the Wide Max arms. These arms do use the original captured hinge pins in most locations, and that's fine, especially given that these HD arms have quite a bit more webbing here and here, so they don't tend to spread apart as easily. Though we've got one new piece down here that's really exciting. Gone is the hinge pin from this location, and in its place we have an actual captured bolt and nut. Even in HD, guys, this arm was the most likely to spread out and spit the pin out. With this, that's not going to happen anymore. We also have the rear hubs off the XRT. Not only do these have the larger inner bearings like the original RPM hubs used to have, but they've got a lot more meat than the original Traxxas hubs had, and there's really no reason to upgrade these anymore. It's great to see them on this truck now, and it's a nice value add for the increased price we're paying. One thing that hasn't changed are these CVDs. They're the exact same ones we had on the previous 8S X-Max, though at 5.5mm in diameter, they are pretty stout. The nut that the wheel mounts to is another proprietary Traxxas part. It is standard 24mm like most 1/5 scale trucks, but again, it has that same castellation that you see on the nut. Combine that with the 17mm thread that most 1/5 scale trucks don't have, and you have to get an adapted nut to fit regular 1/5 scale wheels on here. And in order to fit this wheel and tire on any other 1/5 scale, you have to trim these castellations out of the hex and drill the hole bigger. Though interestingly, it seems like they might have given us a guide for the larger hole size on this wheel. Just like the upper arm, the lower arm, while not Wide Max, is HD, which should make it a lot stronger, and that is a really nice touch. We're gonna find another nice HD upgrade inside this differential too. Pulling this cover off, I'm happy to see that they're not using the same diabolical black grease they used on the Funko. This looks like standard grease, feels pretty good, and doesn't even have a horrible sulfur smell to it. And while it looks like the sintered steel ring and pinion as well as plastic differential case are the same, And popping the top off this, we can see that everything inside is the same. We've got the same sintered steel gears and same crosses, though these crosses are a different color than I remember. Maybe they've got a different heat treat on them. They do have the same part number though. We've got the same silicon gasket here, but what isn't the same are these outdrive cups. First seen on the Funko, these output cups are a lot beefier than on the original X-Max, and they solve a big weakness, though we do have one upgrade that I don't think is going to fit now. We can go ahead and check these M2C sleeves, and yeah, they're not going to fit. They're almost the same OD as these new output cups. However, you're probably not going to need them either, but these and any other sleeve for a previous generation just aren't going to fit anymore. I'm pretty sure these shocks are identical to what we've seen previously on these trucks. They're fairly beefy with aluminum bodies and plastic caps. Underneath these caps, I think we're still running bladder style shocks here. Yep, still have bladders in there. And that's fine, though I would like to see an update to emulsion style shocks at some point. These shocks are pretty decent out of the box, but because they're the same as original, we should have a sweet upgrade coming for these later in the video. All right, let me get all this shoved in the back because the really exciting stuff is up front. Before we move back up to the top, I want to mention one more thing that's really exciting. Traxxas is including these steel inserts underneath the motor mount screws now. These should have been here from the beginning, and they prevent the screws from digging into the plastic and causing all kinds of problems. Speaking of the top, before we get to the exciting stuff, let's talk about the disappointing stuff. We've got the same VXL8S ESC and same motor we've had for a really long time. Whether or not that upsets you just depends on what you think about Traxxas electronics. I've personally never really had very many problems with them. We do have the Traxxas TQI connectors here. And then under this cover, unfortunately, we do still have the same sintered steel spur gear and pinion gear. I'm not one to complain too easily, but at $1,400, these should be machined steel. Come on, Traxxas. And then under this cover, we've got the same spur shaft going to a sintered steel gear, which goes to our center differential, which again is exactly the same as on the original X-Max 8S. Receiver box and TQI receiver are the same, but this steering linkage is not. And to find out why, we gotta pull this whole front end off. And the reason we're pulling the front end off is because, miracle of miracles, Traxxas has finally come to the realization that we don't want plastic geared servos in $1,000 plus vehicles. This is the Traxxas 2085X, and while it's not the highest end servo, it's a heck of a lot better than what came on the original X-Max, and it has metal gears, though I don't think these are steel. While I'm removing this cover, I want to let you know I noticed that a lot of you guys aren't subscribed to this channel. I don't actually monetize this channel, and the only way you can thank me for making these videos, if you're enjoying them, is by subscribing, hitting that like button, and leaving me a comment down in the comment section. I love to hear from you, and you hitting that subscribe button lets me know you're enjoying these videos, and lets me know I should keep making more of them. One thing Traxxas is very good at is waterproofing, and you can see there are O-rings on all these screws. Popping off the bottom cover, you can see we have a 2 PCB system here. The MOSFETs for running the motor are down here, and then a connector board goes over to the motor. This is a brushed motor. You can tell because there's only 2 connections to it. This looks very neat and tidy and should work just fine. Flipping this over and popping the top, you can see while these gears are all metal, most of them are brass, and I'm pretty sure this output's aluminum. No, my mistake, guys. This is slightly magnetic, which means this is stainless steel, which is a lot better than what I thought it was. I'd love to see all steel gears in here, but this gear gets the most force, so it is the important one to have steel. The rest of these probably will be able to get away with being brass. The reason we have this upgraded steering link is because the original one would turn into a taco even with the stock servo. With this one, it probably would have happened right away. Speaking of things turning into a taco, we still have the same aluminum stock center drive shaft, and there's been no additional reinforcement in this area, which means this is probably going to bend on the 3rd or 4th jump. So while I have the front end off, as a quality of life improvement, I'm going to go ahead and install this M2C 2-piece center drive shaft. It shouldn't really affect how the truck handles. We already know this is going to bend, and I don't want to have to take the front end off again. This kit's pretty easy to install, and I don't think it actually requires taking one end or the other off, but it does make it easier. And essentially all we're doing is replacing this one fairly weak, solid piece of aluminum with 2 much stronger steel CVDs that also have additional flex in the middle, which can accommodate the flex in the chassis when you take a big landing. Now, before we pop the front end back on, we can see the steering system is identical to that on the old X-Max. Based on the part number, it does appear that we have the hard spring in here that goes along with that steering link. And based on these extra bosses right here, it appears as though we've got the upper bulkhead that originally came on the XRT, which is stronger than the original X-Max one was. We've got the same HD arms that match the back, as well as that captured hinge pin in the bottom. The front hubs and knuckles are also off the XRT, which is good because they're less likely to pop out this lower kingpin, which was a common problem on the original X-Max. And then to match the rear, we do have the same original 8S X-Max CVDs, but we do get the upgraded output cups. Up top here, we have a nice brand new chrome bumper to match that body, though the bumper support does appear to be the same as it was before. Although on closer inspection, there's actually more reinforcement in this support, which is a good thing because this was a very common weak point. I'll be curious to see if it survives when we go out and bash. Now, because everything here in the middle is the same as on the original X-Max 8S, parts like this M2C motor mount, this M2C wide kit, they're awesome battery battery tray upgrade, their front steering system, bash bar, and ESC plate and reinforcement should all fit just fine. Before we do any of those upgrades though, I want to test this truck in stock form to see how it holds up. With that being said, let me know if you'd like to see a video where I do an ultimate upgrade of this new X-Monster truck. One thing I can't keep are these connectors because I use QS8s on all my larger batteries, so unfortunately, that's the end of my Traxxas ESC warranty. While I'm getting this fired up, I'm curious to know your experience with Traxxas electronics. I've heard a lot of mixed opinions, and I'd really like to get a consensus on how they're doing these days. There we go, all soldered up, and I even got the polarity right on the first try this time. And now I just need to pop the front end back on. And pop this rear bumper back on. By the way, this rear brace is also reinforced. That's nice to see. The previous version didn't have this extra ribbing in here, so I'll be curious to see if this ends up breaking on us. While putting this together, I noticed Traxxas has eliminated one of the most common question new X-Max owners had. They used to give us a little extra plastic bit that would go in place of the rear wheelie bar if you didn't want to install it, but I don't see that anymore, so I guess they took it out. Now it's just time for batteries. I'm going to use these SMC 6500. I do recommend SMC if you're in the market for batteries. They're a US-based company and they stand by their products. You can get the batteries with Traxxas connectors on them, so you won't have to solder on new connectors like I did. While that's charging, we'll go ahead and put some AA's in the venerable Traxxas TQI transmitter. I really do hope Traxxas updates this transmitter at some point, though it does work well. One disappointment is that they don't include a Bluetooth module. I know they really only usually do this on their Ultimate vehicles, but again, at the price point, it would have been nice to see and probably wouldn't have cost them too much. Even without that module, this is one of the most fully featured transmitters you can get on an RTR. Those features are just kind of hard to access with just these two buttons. All right, guys, batteries are charged. Let's get the tires and body on and see what this X-Monster can do. Before we get started, I have to say this truck looks absolutely beautiful. This Bigfoot body is awesome and really gives the X-Max some presence. I mean, X-Monster some presence. The steering feels way better than an X-Max, has a decent amount of power and speed. Speaking of speed, let's see what this thing can do. We do have the stock gearing on here. I don't like to run the speed gearing out of the box. Speed gearing tends to overheat things, but let's see what we can do here. Got some pretty good body roll there. That's full throttle. It looks good. I love how the nose is up in the air like that. Man, it's been a while since I ran a non-wide X-Max, and this actually feels pretty good. These tires are doing well. Oh, got a little too much TSM. You can see it going through those wet puddles down there. That looks pretty cool. Let's turn down the TSM just a tiny bit and give her one more pass. Full throttle. Yeah, nice and stable, feels good. Not the fastest thing in the world. Let's see what we got. Oh man, this thing looks awesome. 42 miles an hour, that will definitely do it. Let's see how it bashes though. Will it do a wheelie? Oh yeah, of course it'll do a wheelie. Even on this wet concrete, these tires are getting good traction. And I will say they didn't want to do a bunch of ballooning on speed because of the belted nature, though they are struggling to give us a good wheelie here just because of how wet it is. Fortunately, this truck is waterproof, so we can go ahead and go through some puddles. It's one of the reasons why I like having a nice waterproof truck. Of course, the bearings aren't going to be the most waterproof thing in the world, but everything else, including electronics, are. And that makes it pretty fun for blasting through some puddles and making some nice trails. Let's go a little deeper, see if we can't get some hydroplane action out of it. That's great. Love it. One more time. Moving over to our slightly hilly grass area. One nice thing about these big trucks is they really don't care if you've got a little bit of tall grass. They just plow right on over it. And this, oh, that sounded awesome. Oh yeah, there we go, get a little donut action going. It's actually nice that it's wet out here. It doesn't really give me a great impression of what it would be like if the surface was dry, but wet surface is fun, and it rains pretty much everywhere. Moving over to the dirt, these Chevron tires seem to be doing a good job of self-cleaning. This thing has got tons of power, and it actually feels pretty darn stable. The suspension feels very well tuned, and overall, even though this doesn't have the Wide Max kit on it, it does seem to be doing a pretty good job. Oh, two wheels, two wheels, two wheels. Oh man, I forgot how much fun a stock, non-upgraded X-Max is. Maybe it's just the tires and the body on this thing, but this is a blast. This thing's a lot of fun. Let's go a little bit deeper. Bringing her over to some deeper sugar sand. We've had a lot of rain lately, so this is pretty well packed down, but we definitely should be able to still kick up some good rooster tails with it. and put it through some paces here. It's got some fairly rough dirt here to go over. Oh, it's handling it no problem whatsoever. This is obviously not going to be a challenge for a truck this big, and this thing can handle some much deeper stuff. And of course, we are going to be durability testing it in just a few minutes, getting a little bit of squeak out of those CVDs, but that actually happens pretty quickly. Going for a nice high-speed run in the dirt. Yep, she handles really well. This is actually the same width as the original X-Max. These tires look wider and they're definitely larger in diameter, but they didn't increase the width at all. But it doesn't seem to matter. It seems to be very stable, and it actually handles a lot better than the original X-Max because of that better servo. With it and the TSM combined, it makes it pretty easy to handle and very user-friendly. Of course, being a stunt truck, it needs to be able to jump. A good amount of air control there. Didn't quite hit the ramp well. This ramp's kind of small for this truck, but we should be able to get some decent air out of it. And we're going to be trying an even smaller ramp in just a minute. See if we can get a bigger jump. Oh, missed it again. It is handling that well though, and it definitely has better air control than the original X-Max. Even though these tires are belted, they're quite a bit heavier. Oh, not quite a backflip though. I think if we get more air, we can do a backflip, although I don't think we're going to get it off of this ramp. Let's try one more time. Nah, ramp's just not quite wide enough for it. I do, however, want to give this new Proline ramp a quick torture test. Okay, so good for a tiny jump. Let's go for a little bit bigger jump. This truck literally is the same width as this ramp. Try for a bit more. You know, for what it is, that's not bad, and the ramp seems to be holding up pretty well. Bigger side? Okay, didn't like that. So far, guys, I have to say I'm pretty impressed with this thing. It feels really good, and everything inside seems to be holding up really well, though it is pretty dirty. But now we need to torture test this thing and see what it can really do. Okay, now it's actually raining out, but if you only bash in the sun, are you really doing RC? Got a little jump there. It's pretty slippery out here, so we're gonna have to get a better run up than that. I think we'll be able to get some good air off this ramp though. See what we can do. There we go. Good air, good landing, no backflip. I tried a little bit, but just wasn't really getting the wheel speed out of it. Let's try that again. It is very wet out here. No. Gonna have to get a bit more traction than that. Nope, and the body popped off. All right, let's try that again. The rain's really starting to come down now. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I'm getting wet. Here we go. Oh, almost, but can't quite get over. So, yep, this is definitely X-Max like we know it. It just won't do a full backflip on stock power with stock gearing. It lands well on its wheels, though, when you don't want to do a backflip. Seems to jump pretty well. Maybe we can get a front flip out of it. Oh yeah, easy front flip, no problem there. But a back flip, that's gonna be more difficult. Let's try it one more time. Then we're gonna have to hurt that body with some durability testing. Here we go. Nah, I just can't do it. The question you have to ask though is, how will the body hold up if we land on the roof? Well, we're about to find out. Oh. That hurts. I can see a couple of wrinkles in the front already. I suspect this body's not going to hold up super well to heavy bashing. Here we go again. Not quite on the roof on that one. Maybe we can backflip it onto the roof. Let's try that. There we go. Boom. Oh man, that hurts. But the body still looks pretty good. Let's give that one more try. Oh, yeah, that's painful to watch, but it's actually holding up better than I thought it would. Let's check out those bumpers. Right on the front, try the back. Just trying to make sure all the new parts are at least reasonably durable. Land right on that wheelie bar. Yep, no problem there. I expect the rest of the drivetrain and powertrain to be reasonably durable, other than those sintered steel gears, of course. One more try. Onto the roof. Oh, man, that does hurt. Will it self-right? Oh, yeah, just barely, but it will. I don't know, guys. This thing's pretty fun, and it looks so good doing it. One more jump. Awesome. All right, guys, so what do I think about this? Well, when you take the fancy new tires off and you take this beautiful body off, underneath, you're left with a somewhat upgraded X-Max. Before we talk about that, let's talk about the body and the wheels, though. First of all, this body held up better than I thought it would. The roof didn't completely cave in on the first roof landing, which I kind of expected to happen. I did notice that this whole area here is hard plastic and is tied into the cage in the bottom. However, this did pop off more than once during my bashing sessions, so it definitely has that same problem as the X-Max, though maybe not quite as bad. But overall, this is a gorgeous body, and it's definitely going to appeal to a lot of people. I also think these wheels and tires are awesome. They feel really good. Again, I'm not a huge fan of belted tires for bashing, but they will appeal to a lot of people. One thing I noticed is that these wheels are not vented at all, neither are the tires. So theoretically, no debris or water should be able to get in here. In my experience, though, water and debris is still going to get in, and there's no way for it to come back out. So we'll just have to see how that works out long term. And of course, since these tires do get a lot of their strength from belts that run across them like this, I don't recommend punching holes in them, as you can weaken the tire and it might fail on you. But what about the truck itself? Well, this thing is pure X-Max through and through, with pretty much all the drawbacks and pretty much all the advantages of an X-Max. I'm definitely happy to see that these bumper mounts have been reinforced. They do seem stronger. Mine didn't break right away. The front also looks good. These heavy-duty output cups are definitely better than what we had on previous versions. I love the captured hinge pins down here, and the steering swivel that's included is a massive improvement over the old stock plastic one. And then finally, the HD arms are a fantastic improvement, and I expect them to last a lot longer. However, other than those and a few more improvements, this is the same 8S X-Max we know and love, and it comes with all the same drawbacks we know and love. And unfortunately, with this gorgeous body and these wheels and tires, it's going to set you back almost $1,400 after tax. That is a pile of money, but if you're not aware, Traxxas also increased the price of the regular X-Max, so it's not quite as much more as we thought it was going to be. For that, you do get a lot of truck with a lot of nice improvements to it, but is it really worth that much money? For just a couple $100 more, you can get the X-Max Ultimate, and it comes with a ton of additional upgrades. Although, to be fair, a lot of the people buying this truck aren't going to be buying it just to buy this X-Max chassis. You're going to be buying it for this sweet body and those awesome tires. Whether or not that's worth it is completely up to you. I could understand either way. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give me some of those hype points underneath the thumbs up button, and then check out one of these videos.